these are some nice to haves, which, I mean, it's not essential, but it does help. So this is isopropyl alcohol, which is also known as rubbing alcohol. And if you spray this on thermal grease, it will dissolve it. So if you're changing your processor, then you'll need this to clean it. You can wipe it off, but this will get rid of the residue. You can also use WD-40, but it smells really bad, so I don't normally use that, but that's what some people recommend. This one is orange oil, and you can buy this at like Bunnings or online or from the supermarket. This one is really good at getting rid of sticky labels. So if you've got like a residue from an old sticker and it's hard to remove, this just gets, like, it smells nice and it's really easy. You just dab a little bit on or pour a little bit on, and then it just wipes off with a paper towel, and it's like it was never there. This is just a microfiber towel. I use these all the time. I generally have one that I'll use for physically cleaning, and then one that's in better condition that I'll use to polish the screen, just so that when you return the laptop it's not covered in fingerprints and that sort of stuff. This one is a hard drive dock. So this is like when you take a laptop hard drive out, they can be this style, or they can be the M.2 style. So an M.2 drive is really thin, and it looks like this. Older laptops will have this style still, or this style, which is the same dimensions, but this one's a solid state drive, whereas this is a mechanical drive. So the evolution in a laptop is they had these ones first, and this one uses a SATA connection. Then they went to these ones, which are solid state, much faster, and they use the same connections, so they're physically the same size, and they use the same screws as well. But then once you went to this type of drive, these ones are really fast, and you can see they're much smaller, much thinner, they're solid state, and they last longer as well. So if you've removed a hard drive and you need to access what's on it, you need to use a hard drive dock. You just put the drive in, so it's usually the top of the drive faces the front, like that. You turn it on and you plug the USB into your computer, and then it will just open up as a drive and you can usually access it. If someone's using BitLocker, you'll have to have their BitLocker key to be able to access what's on the drive, or you can get them to decrypt it first, but that takes like about 4 hours. So it's usually easier if you just get the key. So this style, you can push it down and it can take a full-size hard drive that you'd find in a PC, or you can put in the laptop drive. If you want to read one of these M.2 drives, we're going to need a different device. So when you look at these, this one's got one cut in it. So this type is called an NVMe PCIe M.2 drive. If it's got 2 cuts in it, then it's still M.2, but it's not PCI Express. It's actually a SATA one. So SATA drives are slower compared to the ones that have 1 cut. To read this sort of one, you need M.2, SATA and NVMe. There are some that are just NVMe and some that are just SATA, but if you want to remove the headache, just get one that can do both. So the way that this works, it's got one USB-C to USB-C cable and one USB-C to USB-A cable. This only matters depending on what your computer has that you're attaching it to. So if you've got USB-C, use USB-C because it's faster, but if you've only got USB Type A, then you'll have to use this cable. So in this case, you just push this through and you put this drive in at a 45-degree angle, and you can lock it in, but I find you don't really have to. You can just kind of put it in place. And then if you plug that into a computer, you can read the information. There's different styles of this one, so I've actually got two, or I've got three actually, but this one is a different brand, and you just clip it open and then you can push it through. So I have both just because some drives don't read on some brands, so when that's happened I've just bought another one, and I still use the old one, but it's just weird. Sometimes it just doesn't work. So if you're comparing the two types of drives, you can see the one on the left has got 2 cuts in it, and the one on the right has got 1 cut. So the left one is a SATA, the one on the right is a NVMe PCI Express. This type is faster. The SATA type is the same speed as these type and these type. So a SATA connection can be up to 500 megabytes per second. Mechanical drives don't reach that speed. They're normally less than 200, sometimes they're like 30 megabytes a second or something. And so if you're going from one of these and you put in an SSD, it will run at least 3 or 4 times faster. This one and this one run about the same speed, but once you go to this style, the difference is another 7 to 14 times faster. So this one's capped at say 550 megabytes a second, whereas this one, they usually start at around 2000 megabytes a second, and the highest now is about 15,000 megabytes a second. I mean, they're very expensive, but if you get a drive for home use, like these ones, this is a Samsung 990 Pro, 1 terabyte, and this one can do 7,450 megabytes a second. So while it doesn't always run at that speed, they run very close to that speed most of the time. So if I was wanting to read data off either of these, one of these works for both. So inside it's only got 1 cut. But the position on this one with the 2 cuts will also fit. So you can read from either one. These are very useful, and pretty much if I'm ever cloning a hard drive or replacing a hard drive or checking if a hard drive still works, then you need one of these. Because often when a laptop fails, the hard drive is still perfectly fine and the data's perfectly fine. This is a universal laptop power supply. So in here, it's got a series of different connectors that fit different brands. Different brands of laptops have got different styles of plugs, and if the person doesn't bring their charger, one of these is very handy to have. HP, this one's Lenovo, Acer. Dell can be different sizes. Some Dells use these bigger ones, and some use like the smaller ones. The majority of the time, one of these kits will have everything that you need, but occasionally it won't quite fit. So if you can't get contact with the outside, sometimes you can wrap it with a very thin piece of aluminium foil, and then it's good as a temporary connection, but I wouldn't rely on it as a permanent one. So if I wanted to use this Dell one, I just plug that onto the end, and it's keyed so it only fits in one direction. And then once that's on, you check on the bottom of the laptop, and it will tell you the voltage. So you can use this key to turn this arrow to adjust it to what you need. So the values on this particular kit are from 12 volts up to 22 volts, and most laptop chargers are either 19 or 19.5. Some are 20, but you don't normally use the other ranges. You just have to make sure that you set the voltage to the right level. The amperage doesn't really matter, but the voltage does matter. If you send the wrong voltage, it can damage the laptop, whereas if the amperage is too high, it doesn't really matter because it will only draw what it needs. So one of these kits, they can be quite expensive. They're around $80 to $120 or $150, that sort of thing. And you can buy them from Jaycar. I bought a 90 watt one. Most laptops use less than 90 watts, but occasionally a gaming laptop will use more. So if you're working on a gaming one, it's better to just get the original charger, because it could be 150 watts or it might be 200 watts, some are even higher than that. But the majority of the ones that you have on the market now are either 45, 65 or 90 watts. So this one covers all of them. The last tool is an anti-static strap. So an anti-static strap works by, you put this on your wrist or on your ankle, and then you can attach this to something metal. It doesn't have to be a huge piece of metal, but not like a coin. It should be something that's like big enough. So I often use this, and then I can just position it somewhere and it doesn't get in the way of what I'm working on. But if I'm doing something that's fiddly, I'll actually just wear bare feet and have my feet resting on a piece of metal, because I find that works just as well, whereas having a wristband is often a bit cumbersome. So you use an anti-static strap if you're in a very dry environment that will generate a lot of static. It's basically, if it's hot and dry, that's the worst combination for static electricity. If it's somewhere that's cold and damp, you can wear one if you want, but a lot of the times you don't really need it. For generally opening the case and that sort of stuff, this is not really required. But if you're handling, say, RAM or processors, or working on any commercial stuff, even if it's not really required, it's better to be safe than sorry. So just get one and wear it. It will rule out that as being a problem. Because when you work on things and you're damaging them with static electricity, you can't always see the damage, and you won't actually realise that you've damaged something. So if you wear it anyway, it rules out that possibility. There are some specialty kits you can get that are like this one. I don't use this on a regular basis, but it's a nice to have. It's an electric screwdriver, but it's like a mini one. So when it turns on, it's rechargeable, it's wireless, and you can choose the bit, and then you press one button to turn it one way, and one to turn it the other way. It's also got a light when you press it, so it helps in some cases, but I mean, I find it's better to just use a hand screwdriver most of the time, because then you don't have to worry about if it's charged or not. This kit's also got some extra tools, which this is like a fancy pry tool. It's I haven't needed that one yet. And this is a set of metal tweezers. So that just goes in there, and it turns itself off automatically. Sometimes you need a mini drill. It's not like when you're working on something mechanical. Working on a computer is usually quite delicate or quite fragile. I would generally use hand tools first, but if I'm working on a lot of machines, then things like that small electric screwdriver is handy. But I wouldn't use like a large drill or something like that, because it's got too much torque and you don't want to damage the threads on the screws or on the motherboard, because that usually means you need to replace the whole part. So I hope that was helpful to you.